Okay, before I start with this episode recap and review of Appleoosa's Most Wanted, I want to apologise for getting this out a little bit later than usual. I've been having some trouble today, not just with people who have been disagreeing with what I've been saying for the From the Exec blog post, but I've also had a bit of a nervous breakdown. And yeah, as you would have guessed from the Twitter feed, things aren't going pretty well at the moment for me. So I'll try my best to be positive and get my thoughts out, and then probably work on the audio description video at a later date. So apologies if you've been expecting that. But unfortunately, life events at the moment have, push has come to shove. So I'll stop talking about that. Let's get on with what we came to see. And that's the episode recap and review. Now, before I start with this recap and review, I'd like to say that this may upset a few people, may cause a few people to get offside, and some people may not agree with what I'm about to say. Now, why do you ask this? The 6th episode in the My Little Pony series so far has usually been one that flopped or didn't gauge enough interest in the viewer. An example of this was Power Ponies. Yes, an episode which I hate to bits and still do to this day. Now, that episode in the 4th season is one example where how a major split occurred on how the fandom reacted to the episode itself. Of course, with the whole Flutterhawk business, it caused a major rift and tested some friendships along the way. Now, while this episode was liked in the majority of the fans, some of them, like myself, hated the episode outright or didn't feel like there were some parts of it that, well, didn't suit me. Some were let down after the synopsis was completely different to what happened in the episode, well, in my case. And the return of Brayburn had many concerned about the influx of memes and image reactions ruining the episode outright. Well, so far I haven't seen any of that stuff at the moment, so fingers crossed that doesn't become the case. So with that out of the road, here we go. Now, first off, on a positive note, I like the concept of returning to Appleoosa. Now, after all, it has been a long time since we last visited, and that was back in the very first season. We get to now see more of the town and also their community and culture as they prepare for their annual rodeo event. We also see the Cutie Mark Crusaders, who come along for the trip with Applejack, and they are still looking for their cutie marks. But 40 seconds into the episode, and when Brayburn appeared on the screen, that's when things started to get a little troublesome. Now, I won't go into details on why this happened, but to sum it up, there are a few reactions to Brayburn's return that are a little, well, let's say not fit for YouTube. I also went into the episode having some concern about what would happen about Brayburn's return. Which leads me to ask this question. Why is it when fans think of Brayburn, they automatically think of Breakback Mountain references or memes and image reactions such as everyone is you-know-what for him? Now, let's clear up a few things here. I don't have anything against him, nor do I have any hate or dislike for the minor characters on the show, well, except for a few. It's just stuff like the memes and some of the image reactions that just makes me cringe for some reason. Now, being middle-aged and heading on to your 30s like myself, or close to that mark, usually means you have different thoughts and feelings and have a general dislike for the more modern culture that's out there today. Now, I'm not saying that I hate them. If I did hate on anything that the fandom did, including reactions to minor characters, then where would the fun stuff come from? It would just be bland, black and grey. It's just that I'm more of a serious person when it comes to watching the show. Now, I don't care if a trend, meme or image reaction starts, but I prefer to look at the bigger picture and write about my thoughts on how I felt about the episode, argue some points if the need arises, and then some. Now, for the record, I am not into the memes or image reactions. They are not my taste. And that for me is a personal preference. Some may like it, some may don't. Now, apart from all of the drama, there wasn't a complete hate for this episode for me. In fact, there were some scenes that I liked. One of those scenes was when Appleoosa showed objection to being sent home after Trouble Shoes first came to town. And to be honest, I had a little giggle at that scene, so yeah. And another scene that I liked was when Sweetie Belle was refining her magic skills and using her unicorn magic had me in a proud feeling as usual. Now the rest of the episode without going full throttle was confusing and at times hollow. The story was all over the place, and Trouble Shoes himself, who was promoted originally in this episode synopsis as a pony who would eventually end up on Australia's Most Wanted, and being such classed as a villain, eventually ends up becoming a rodeo clown. Now there isn't much else to say about that, but when you've got the synopsis saying one thing and it turns out to be completely different, yeah, you're going to cause a lot of confusion and probably a lot of anger. So with that out of my system and the dust now being settled, would I see this episode again anytime soon? Well, not really. Whilst many people like the episode, and again, I'll set the umpire's decision, I won't be in a rush to watch this again. Now, there isn't anything wrong with the story, or the characters, or the setting of the episode. I just couldn't understand for the life of me what was going on. And that's pretty much my thoughts on it. Just on a personal level. I mean, I love Cutie Mark Crusader episodes. I mean, especially the ones with Rarity and Sweetie Belle, which I'll go into during the pony hiatus next weekend. But this episode for me was all over the shop. I couldn't understand for the life of me why they did it, or how, or what the story was. But again, as I said, you'll get these episodes in a season, but it's usually at around the 6th episode point that these things do occur. Well, as you probably would have guessed as well, there's no pony next weekend, so I'm going to take a little bit of a change in direction for that weekend, and I'm going to be doing a little bit of special articles for the From the Exec blog, so keep an eye out for those. But in the meantime, of course, yep, that should be it.